Alrighty, everybody. It is currently Friday, June 13th, 2025, and I'm coming at you live. And it's, this is an emergency cast. And I do think maybe some other people have seen the same news that I have. I saw this yesterday, and it was very prominently featured. I saw it multiple times, saw a lot of people talking about it. And it's just, I just wanted to come on here and address this. And this is something that, quite frankly, is going to change the entire world, right? Especially America. This is going to change the way people are going to, you know, not people are going to lose family members over this. It's very serious, and I know I joke around a lot, and stuff like that, but I think this is something that we have to take serious because this is I would say unprecedented. It's things like this have happened in the past, but this event, quite frankly, is completely unprecedented, even in the imaginations of most people. Even, it's something you think about a lot, but you just never think it will come to fruition. And I just want to be the first to say, y- sorry, um, Hunter Schafer has received tit implants. She got him, dude. I saw this on Instagram yesterday. I was scrolling on Instagram, in between watching nuclear targets in Iran being struck and Palestinian babies getting their heads cut off. And I saw this video, and it was Hunter Schafer, who, if you don't know, is a transgender actress, actor, however you want to look at it, who she was in like Euphoria or something. And I'm gonna say she because she got the implants, and these aren't no Mia Khalifa bullshit ass like round ogly joggly fucking you know cement balls in there. These are she must have got this wasn't even Dr. Miami. This was a step above Dr. Miami. This was done, I would assume, by the most Asian looking man you've ever seen. A man who is so deeply committed to the craft of plastic surgery that he doesn't even have social media. That's who I imagine did these tits. Because Jesus Christ, and I have it pulled up right here. And I'm not even in incognito mode. This is just regular. I'm fine with this going in my search history. This picture was taken about a month ago at a Met Gala after party, and look, man, this might be the thing that changes the tide. I know I was talking about how America's like, the mainstream, especially pop culture and shit. Joe Rogan, country music, all that shit. Church is making a comeback. It's kind of going a little bit back towards conservatism. This, combined with the fear mongering around, ICE and the deportation and shit like that. But I think this is like the main factor in there. I was talking about ICE and the, fear mongering and all that bullshit. I don't even know. I don't even think, that's gonna blow over pretty quickly. But this isn't, especially if she's in a new movie. I don't know. I might have to look it up just to see what's up with it. But if she's in a new movie that's coming out, and like, especially if it's like a dude movie, like if people really want trans people to get accepted in this country, put Hunter Schafer in like Fast and Furious, dude. With these brand new, I mean, guys, it's like, I know you're hearing fake tits on a trans person, and you're thinking like, what's this guy talking about? You're thinking I'm talking about like some Sarah J type shit, just some absolutely like a mom in Beverly Hills in the 90s or the 80s before the fucking, the plastic surgery came to the point where it is now. You're thinking like just some it's like someone cut her chest open and poured some bags of concrete in there, poured some bags of quickcrete in there, mix it up with the drill real quick and said, all right, that's good. We don't need no rebar in there. They put the rebar in there. They put all kinds of bells and whistles. This might be CRISPR. This might this might have been genetically engineered, because I'm looking at these things, and I mean, good lord, because the mistake they make often is they make it. I don't even know if perky is the right word when it comes to fake tits, but they have them like completely just like standing up on their own, like they're supported by scaffolding, right? Or something like that. Like they're supported by like an invisible crane that's holding them up. But these are, I mean, she's wearing a dress too, a tight dress. And before you come at me saying she, that's a man, that's a man. Hey man, maybe I'm gay then. Maybe I'm a homosexual male. And I'm not even people are, what about her face? I bet she has like a square jawline, or like her cheekbones or her forehead is massive. Guys, I'm not looking at that. I am not, and no one is. Literally, look up Hunter Schafer new boobs, and hop over to the Googie images real quick. And you're about to be googing too. You're about to be You know what I mean? You're about to be googing and gooning because I mean, it's and she's like I said, she's wearing a tight dress, and you could tell there's a bit of squishiness there, right? Because with the hard ones or the fake ones, usually they're hard, right? There's you can poke them, and it's just you break your finger, right? You poke a fake tit, and you end up jamming your knuckle. Like that's usually the case, but these things are soft, squishy, like, and not too squishy. You know what I mean? She doesn't got a pair like Irish Catholic mom, some dog tits on there. Oh my god, dude! And there's this other picture out there that's pretty famous of her at the Oscars, I guess, in 2023, with just all she's wearing is like a feather that covers her nipples. And I'm looking at him, I'm getting more of a full view, right? Because the dress picture, it's obviously it's a dress, so it's blocking, the undercarriage and all that. These are some good ones, dude. I would like to know where she look, dude. These tits look so good. I might go get a pair myself, right? Because they're obviously fake. Because this is a I don't know how the whole trans thing works, but I'm pretty sure you don't grow just like regular tits. I think you do grow like some sort of like I think there's just like man tits, right? Because you look at these dudes that are kind of built like pears and you see that they have man tits. I think that's what transgender people get, and that's why those dudes are built like pears and have man tits is because they have too much estrogen or not enough testosterone or whatever. And so that's basically what being trans is you just take hormone blockers and then you take uh, estrogen or testosterone, depending on what you're doing. But these, I mean, they're clearly fake. Just they're not clearly fit. Like if I just showed you this on its own, right? If I took the face out and just showed you these tits, you'd be like, those are a rockin' pair of tits. I mean, I, a lot of people are making the comparison. The streets are talking about it. I've been going hog wild on it. I've been talking about it to everyone I know. I woke up this morning, rubbed my eyes, scratched my gooch, went out to my parents and said, "Did you see Hunter Schafer's new tits?" That's that's the first thing I did today, and not even in a sexual way. I mean, these things are just they're rocking, and a lot of people are making Sydney Sweeney type comparison. They're not look, they're not the same size, but in terms of shape, shape, evenness, I mean, just juiciness. I think these are unmatched, right? You look at a lot of these other ones. I think the only other famous trans, or at least M to F trans that I know of is Caitlyn Jenner. And Caitlyn's not trying at all. Kate in Caitlyn's defense, Caitlyn is like 70 years old, right? And when you're 70 years old, it's like you shouldn't be trying at anything. You shouldn't be trying, especially to look good. If you're 70 years old, right? Like my grandpa, he's in his mid 70s and he's like jacked. He's in like very good shape. And I'm just like, dude, I get it. You got the great grandkids starting to roll around. But I mean, man, you can just kind of let it go, dude. Right? Like I'm 21 and even I'm in that phase where I'm like kind of dieting right now, but I'm still like, should I just let it go? Should I just full on Elsa and just let it go, right? Especially if you're 70, and that's kind of what Caitlyn did. Like Caitlyn was just like, dude, I'm 70 years old and I won like 10 gold medals at the fucking Olympics. What does it No, I'm not doing all that work. I'm not gonna go get 10 surgeries a week so that I can look more female. But Hunter Schafer's a young, hungry dog in the game, all right? She's a junkyard pit bull fighting for her life trying to defend a pile of copper in a meth head's trailer park. That's what Hunter Schafer is. She got that dog in her and she got them tits in her. Because I'm serious. Go to the Googie images and look up Hunter Schafer new tits, right? Because you look at the old ones and I'm not gonna say I'm unimpressed, but it's just it's not as great as I would like it to be, and there's multiple pictures on there, and even the ones from her in 2023, it's still a solid pair. So and I think this is going to change the game a little bit. Especially if what's that the Sasquatch scope, Sasquatch the Sasquatch soap, right? The Bigfoot soap with like the Sydney Sweeney bathwater in there it, we just need like one corporate collab, right? Like one dude bro corporation like Black Rifle Coffee or like a Joe Rogan kettlebell type of company or some shit like that. Like make a kettlebell that's in the shape of one of Hunter Schafer's new tits, right? Or you could make it like a pair, like two 45-pound kettlebells and each are in the shape of her tits. And that could completely change the tide in terms of like the whole transgender thing, especially with the country moving more towards a conservative thing. And look, I'm not picking a side here. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it, but if you want that success, and this is going to be a tough train to stop for the conservatives, if she goes full bore into it, right? Like I'm saying, if she gets into like a Fast and Furious, or I don't know, I haven't seen the new Mission Impossible. Maybe she's in it or something like that, or maybe they start a whole new franchise, right? Maybe they combine Fast and Furious with Mission Impossible, put Hunter Schafer in it, and just have those titties hanging out in every scene. I don't think the conservatives are going to stop it. I don't care how much money the GOP gets; they're not going to be able to stop this train, dude. This is an unmovable, not even an unmovable object. This is an unstoppable force. These two things, these two absolute cannons that I'm not looking at them right now, right? Because I don't want to get too hyped up, but I'm not looking at them right now. I'm gonna look at them real quick. I mean, yeah, there's nothing anyone can do to stop. I don't think Joe Rogan could stop this. Maybe that could be a good game plan for her. Go on Joe Rogan, right? Like that Chinese lady who like escaped North Korea or whatever. Get, get her in like a position like that and have like a dress, you know what I mean? Or since the thing's moving towards conservatism a little bit, get her in like a nice tight sweater, throw her on Joe Rogan. You could completely change the tide in terms of what we're looking at. And don't have her bitch too much about the whole trans. Just like a little bit of bitching, just like a little bit of like, and have her go at it with like a dude bro perspective. Because this is like a dude, right? Like she lived, I don't know, when she like turned into a chick, but like she lived a decent portion of her life as a dude. So get her in there, reprogram her brain a little bit, and have her like have her watch like 14 hours of Nelk Boy videos. Have her just on a diet where the only media she consumes is like Nelk Boy videos and Barstool Sports, and then throw her on Joe Rogan in a nice tight sweater, and I'm not part of the movement. I'm just saying I want to look at the tits more. They're a great pair. They could really, turn the tide in terms of where things are going, especially now. You know what I mean? You might turn. This could turn Florida into a blue state. This could turn Wyoming into a blue state. To be quiet, but Wyoming isn't as horny as Florida. Florida's like. Florida might be the horniest state, which is why I'm saying that you could turn it into a fully blue state, right? You could. Wyoming is a little bit less horny, especially like they're very socially conservative up there. But put her up there, get her to go on like a worldwide, or not a worldwide tour, like a countrywide tour to all the states that have been like permanently red, and have her go up there in like a tight fucking Sarah Palin type of pantsuit. You know what I mean? Get the glasses, get like that slutty hair Sarah Palin head, and have Hunter Schafer go around to all these states, and you could turn at least one blue. You could turn at least one of like the permanently red states, maybe Oklahoma. I think you could turn the tide in Oklahoma there a little bit because once again, that's a very trashy, trashy state. Even though it is always red, it's not the same type of like quiet conservatism as Wyoming. It's a very loud type of, you know what I mean, lifted trucks with Trump flags on the back and shit. I think Dick Cheney's from Wyoming. If you want to get an understanding of the type of conservatism that exists there, right? It's like a very old school corporate, warmongering conservatism as opposed to the more loud, bombastic conservatism of Oklahoma and Florida and states like that. And so maybe you skip out on Wyoming. I think you could go to Alaska. I feel like the boys in Alaska, it's like the most predominantly male state in the union, and all the dudes there like work on oil rigs and like logging farms and shit like that. So if you get Hunter Schafer up there, I think you could turn Alaska blue, dude. And I'm not talking about all the ice that exists up there. I'm not talking about the glaciers and shit. You could turn it into a legit. I legitimately think you could turn it into like a real permanently blue state if you just get Hunter Schafer up there with the pantsuit, a nice tight pantsuit. You know what I mean? Where the buttons just barely fit over it. I think you could do it. I really think you could. I mean, it's a monster pair she's got on her. A monster mod, and that must have been. I wonder if it's like getting your ACL repaired or whatever. Or it's like she had to wear like a tit brace or like a one of those scoliosis back braces to like get her posture right for like the first few weeks. She might have been in like complete isolation for like 2 months, just getting her tits straight, dude. Doing tit physical therapy because I mean these are I don't know, maybe the implants are lighter than the natural tits. I don't really know how that whole thing works. But I mean, I imagine each one of these things, we're probably talking 10 pounds each. If you don't want to look it up, if you don't want to have that in your search history, but it's not gay, dude. It's just, and I think the caption of the thing I saw on Instagram was like, it's not gay if you don't see a dick or whatever. And it was just her with her gigantic tits. I don't know. I might be making that caption up completely, but I mean, Hunter Schafer, if you're listening to this, and I know that you are, this is a you're in a good place right now. You're in a very good place because, I mean, I was going on a little bit of the whole anti-trans thing recently. I think a little bit. Was she in the Hunger Games? I have no, dude. These, it's insane, dude. She's not competing with like Sofia Vergara and like Selma Hayek and Sydney Sweeney, and all, but she's up there, dude. These are like, if you know who Haley Atwell is, these are like, I think she's got Haley Atwell beat, dude. I think I think this is another example of a transgender woman going into, a female dominated space and, just using natural advantages to win it, dude. Right? It's like sports or like swimming or whatever with Leah Thomas. Hunter Schafer is the Leah Thomas of being like a hot chick in Hollywood. Cause I mean, and she probably has all the money in the world for like plastic surgery and shit like that. But it is, and that's the other thing. I do think we got to work on the face a little bit, just a touch here and there. She's already pretty close. I'm looking at a few. She's very very close. Maybe get the lips going a little bit. Maybe get that chin shaved down a bit. But I mean, she's right on the precipice. Hunter Schafer is right on the precipice of being able to turn the tide of conservatism in America if she wants to. If that's what she's choosing, I don't know. I wonder where she's from. She's probably if I had to guess, I'd say she's from like the Northeast. But if she's from like North Carolina, then we might have a bit of a Caitlyn Jenner on our hands, where it's like she doesn't want to turn the tide. And I'm looking at some older pictures right now, and it's the tits just aren't there. And then they just popped up out of nowhere, dude, like a gopher out of like a gopher out of the hole, like a fucking woodchuck, like Puxatawny Phil, dude. She's got those Puxatawny tits, dude. The Puxatawny flopper. It's really, it's really impressive to see. It's like if I had to compare it to, I'd say it's when like Neil Patrick Harris, like when he, and I was pretty young, I think when that happened. I think it happened while they were making How I Met Your Mother. Like he came out as gay, but I would put that on par with that. Like as long as she just doesn't go too much into it, as long as she's not like shoving it down everyone's throat all the time, as long as she's not shoving like the transgender thing down everyone's throat all the time. And I'm not talking about her probably pretty small penis at this point. She's been up there, she's been taking the hormones for a while. So I imagine it's like a Hitler type deal where it's like one of the balls is missing. It's like shriveled. It kind of looks like if you've ever seen like a monkey jerk off at the zoo, I think that's probably what her dick would look like. As long as she's shoving the tits down everyone's throat, you know what I mean, and not the transgender thing, I think I really do think I really because we haven't had one like this before. We haven't had like a really, really, really hot one. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to go back in time. I'm trying to remember. There was that one that went on the Andrew Schultz podcast, but she was a porn star. So I mean, that's you're not going to get the people with that. That's a little bit too extreme. But it's I think this one. I think she could change the tide. I'm telling you, one or two Joe Rogan appearances of her just like talking about shit, right? Talking about Hollywood. If she comes out as like if she comes out as like a QAnon type of trans, right? Like if Hunter Schafer revives QAnon by going on Joe Rogan 3 times a week for like the next month, if she turns into like Candace Owens, she could really maybe people won't be down for the whole non-binary thing, but look, it's baby steps, dude. It's baby steps. And this is what I mean when I'm saying you got to roll out the hot ones. You got to get the hot ones because she's the hottest one, and I don't even know if she's the most famous one. I think Caitlyn Jenner, if I had to guess, is probably the most famous one. And then all the other ones are like the ones on TikTok that like that like have like hairy shoulders and they go to a restaurant with a tank top on and they're like, "It's not sir. I am not a sir," right? Like they go to Walmart, like they try to buy a fucking Vizio 36-inch flat screen at Walmart, and the guy's like, sir, what size do you look?" "I am not a man." You know, you got to get those ones to roll back. You got to start doing like a Kim Jong Un North Korea style thing where it's just, you kind of got to look at those people as enemies of the state, right? Like they're enemies of the movement, if that makes sense. It's you got to get the hot ones out there, and I think she could do it, right? And maybe get like I don't know if this is gonna flip the blacks over on the whole, because they don't play that shit. Hey man, they don't they don't play that shit. But if you get like a hot black one and you don't go for the tits as much on the hot black one, obviously you go more for the ass. If you make like a black transgender Megan the Stallion, it I don't know. I think they could really start turning the tide here if they really want like a transgender Manchurian candidate, dude. A trans a transmurian candidate. That's what they should do. Just start psyoping these ones. Find like a dude who's like already hot, like a hot not like a big jack dude, but like a hot twink and get and like MK Ultra his brain until he thinks he's a woman or he's transgender or whatever. Look, I'm not taking any sides here, but do that and you could really just start pumping them out like a factory and just start getting them out there. Get them into everything, dude. If they get one at Barstool Sports, you know, or if Joe Rogan has one on that that works for like a tea company that's somehow based around guns, like a gun tea company, like a tea company that's basically Black Rifle Coffee. If you could get a transgender doing that on Joe Rogan, you could really change the tide of the war. You know what I mean? This is Guadalcanal. This is Stalingrad. This is capturing Berlin. This is this is the Soviet Union marching on Berlin right now. They're close. They're getting there. And they just need to make a couple right moves here and there and not completely, give up on the whole gambit and they can get there. And so, I think that's probably the second most important event that's happening in America right now. The first most or sorry, that's the first. Second is Israel versus Iran. And this is funny, right? I was looking up because people know, if you don't know, Iran used to be called Persia, and then they had like an Islamic revolution that was funded entirely by the CIA and conducted entirely by the CIA. No, they the CIA basically Arabized Iran, whatever you want to call it. But Iran, the name means like home of the Aryans, and so the Aryans are the and the Jews, right? The Jews in Israel and the Aryans in Iran are still fighting each other, dude. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, Hitler's plan was like half right. It was you know what I mean? But he went too far with the whole Aryan thing. It's you just got to get rid of both of them because they're just going to keep fighting forever. Just get rid of both of them. And that's another thing about Hunter Schafer. Sorry to go back, but like I said, it's the most important topic in America right now. Her, I can't tell what color her eyes are, but she has like very blonde hair. Maybe if she threw in some like those Kanye blue contacts, she could she could really flip this thing on its head, right? Like if people, I don't know if you guys are on TikTok or Instagram a lot, but I am, and the majority of the things I see on there are like Nazi it's like edits of Agartha. Like I think if Hunter Schafer could get in like one Agartha edit, like one Aryan Nazi Agartha edit on TikTok, I think that could really, turn the tide of things a little bit, just a touch. And you gotta hide the ugly ones. You just gotta, like an abusive parent, dude. You just gotta like Harry Potter that thing and just put it like underneath the stairwell. Get all the ugly ones out there. And if you're gonna have the ugly ones out there, you gotta make sure they rule, right? Like Caitlyn Jenner, she's definitely not one of the most convincing ones I've ever seen. And I don't think she would even disagree with that. And I will call her she because she could beat my ass, but she's jacked, dude. She's like 6'4". She plays like defensive line for the Cowboys. She is huge, dude. Caitlyn Jenner has still, in spite of all the money and like all like the surgery and shit she's had, she has like the build of a dude who gets like 5 sacks a season for the Philadelphia Eagles. Like it's just ridiculous. But she rules. That's the thing about Caitlyn Jenner. She like goes golfing with the Nelk boys and goes to like frat parties at ASU and shit. She rules so fucking hard. Same with that other one, Gorlock the Destroyer. Like if you've never seen that one, it's just this absolute bowling ball of a human being. And it's just so fat. But she like rules hard as fuck. She's like the chillest, sickest dude of all time. Like if Barstool if if Gorlock the Destroyer like went on the Yak, which is like the Barstool's like I think it's like their biggest podcast or something like that. If if Gorlock went on Yak and Hunter Schafer went on Joe Rogan at the same time, I think they could really turn the tide of this thing. But get all like the annoying like the Disney adult transgenders. People already hate Disney adults, but making them transgender too on top of that is just that's a recipe for disaster, dude. That's a recipe. You're mixing bleach and ammonia there, dude. That's straight up mustard gas. A Disney plus a trans, and it probably smells like mustard gas too. Because I imagine most Disney adults are kind of like the French, like they don't shower all the time, and they're just out in like the fucking Orlando humid heat, sweating all day, and they're taking all these hormones and shit, and like their new vaginas like oozing pus. So you got to get those ones out. But I really do think we're looking at, a revolution. We're looking at a Martin Luther King Jr. here. Someone that could really, depending on how she comes out about it, could change the tides of things. And I'm not gonna call them all she, because not all of them look like she's. But this one, dude, this is a fucking, this is Big Poppy Ortiz stepping up to the plate and getting a lob of meatball down the middle and just sending it 500 feet into the fucking crowd. I mean, seriously, it's seriously. And maybe she could be one of the ones that's more conservative, and then you could maybe have a few of them that like get into the porn a little bit and just get like that whole thing going on. Because that's how if you really want to brainwash dudes, right? Like conservative dudes, all these dudes that I'm a conservative, and then they then they jerk off to like the least conservative thing possible. If you want to do that, get a few of the hot ones and get them into like some normal type of porn. Because I'm trying to think. I don't really know what's going on in the whole trans department in terms of porn, but I do imagine it's probably different from the normal stuff. So get them into like some normal stuff, and I think you could really, really switch things up here. Really do it. And so, yeah, I mean, that was the most important topic of the day. The second most important topic of the day: Israel's fighting Iran. Not a, an ethnic conflict in the Middle East. What a surprise! What a surprise, dude. You're telling me that the Middle East is experiencing a centuries long, a centuries long ethnic conflict is reviving itself in the Middle East? I don't buy it for a second. What are you talking about here? What are you out of your mind, dude? If there's one thing I know about the Middle East is that ethnic homogeny is its name, dude. That's its game and its name. Same with South Africa. Like everyone talking about like the conflict between the Boers and the blacks and the I guess the blacks are like the Zulus and maybe a few other tribes in South Africa. Like people talk about that shit and I'm like, yeah, there's an ethnic conflict in Africa. It's like there's nothing new. The only difference between this and the millions of other ethnic conflicts currently happening in Africa is that one of the groups is white. That's the only difference. But it is, if South Africa does succeed in their mission of like kicking out all the whites and stealing all their land, it's just going to become Zimbabwe again. Like if you don't know, that's what Zimbabwe did. Zimbabwe used to be called, for a while, it was called Southern Rhodesia, and then it became its own country called Rhodesia. And Rhodesia was like it was like an old school type of country. They were called more British than the British, right? Because in the 60s especially the British, the country of the United Kingdom was becoming kind of like socialist and stuff like that, and so they were moving away from their old school British ways, but Rhodesia remained or sustained a lot of those traditions and shit. And so they went from more British than the British to more starving than the Ethiopians because there was basically like a war of like the whites, they owned all the land, especially the farmland. In Zimbabwe, Rhodesia, whatever you want to call it, used to be called the breadbasket of Africa. And then the fucking minorities, it's the Ndebele tribe and like the Sosha tribe, something like that. I don't remember the exact names. They ended up taking over Zimbabwe and immediately they had all this farmland and they were like, well, what do we do now? Right? And I think if South Africa does somehow succeed in their mission of kicking out all the white people there, m- that would be my guess. My guess is that it would turn into another Zimbabwe, and they're probably going to have a war with Lesotho and Eswatini, if I had to guess. But yeah, and the main difference between Rhodesia and South Africa is that a lot of the families in Rhodesia, for one, they were British, right? Like that's a major difference between Rhodesia and South Africa is that Rhodesia was British, and the families had only been there for like one or two generations max, whereas a lot of like these Afrikaner, Boer, whatever you want to call them, families, the predominant South African ethnic group that is white, those people have been there for like 500 years. They've been there. They've been there as long as a lot of the black people have. Like, if you don't know, South Africa was originally inhabited by this ethnic group, whatever you want to call it, this ethnic cultural group called the Xhosa people, or the San. The Xhosa, I think, is like one tribe or group within the San people, but the San people are not what you think of when you think of like an African person. Like they have lighter skin, they still have like the dark curly hair, but they're pretty short people. And so they were there for like thousands and thousands of years. And then during like the Bantu expansion era, which I think was like the 1200s or the 1300s, what you would think of an African person, right? Like a black, very dark skin, very tall, broad, like tight curly hair, that shit. They came down and like killed all the Xhosa people and conquered it. And then like 100 years later, the Dutch came and did the same thing. So it's both groups have been there really for not that long. If you want to play the whole this land belongs to its original owners, that South Africa belongs. Same with the Zimbabwe. Same with Namibia. Same with I think those are probably the only examples of those countries. Maybe Botswana, that belongs to the Sand people. It doesn't. It doesn't belong to like African people, and I just think that whole game is funny. That whole this land belongs to us because we were here just before you were here. Like that's seriously what it is. That's a lot of it, right? Like there are certain groups of people, right? Like I'm a Delaware Native American, and the Delaware people, they were like somehow by some miracle, it's probably because they lived in a shitty swamp that no one else wanted, but they like they were like the first people to arrive in that area, like the Northeast, New York, Philly type of area. Like that's where the tribe is from, and they sustained it there. And so maybe there's like a bit of a claim there, but then again, not really. And so that's like the game. That's the entire like this land belongs to us, and it's like why? Because you were here just before we got here. Like it's like you weren't the first people to get here. Like that's a ridiculous idea. Same with like Mexico, right? Like there's this thing in Mexico City where they do like these Aztec festival tradition dance type of things at this church in Mexico City to like maintain the culture. But the thing about the Aztecs is they they got there just before the Spanish got there. They're the group of people. I don't know if they wiped out the Mayans, but they conquered like the Mayan lands and shit like that. And so it's so funny to hear like these people like I'm an Aztec. This Mexico belongs to the Aztec people. They're the original inhabitants. And it's like no, they're not. They're just not. They came from like Arizona or something like that and then like conquered Mexico. And so I do think that whole game is funny. And even when the Europeans do it, right? Like the Europeans right now, they're having like beef with these refugees, asylum seekers, immigrants, whatever. They're people being imported by corporations for cheap labor. That's what they are. I don't know. People want to call it whatever they want to call it. That's what it is. But they're having this whole beef with these people, and they're like, it belongs to us. And it's like, dude, that's not the way the world works. The world doesn't work just because you have something. That doesn't mean it's going to be yours always and forever. That's not. It's not the way history has worked ever. That's not the way the world works right now. That's right. It's like when people talk about taxes. It's like I earn the money, it's mine. It's like no, it's never been that way. The second money was invented, some dude saw that and was like, "How can I steal it? How can I steal that money from this other dude?" It's always what it's been. It's always just people trying to steal from other people. And I don't know if Iran is trying to steal land from Israel. I don't understand why it's Israel versus Iran. Iran doesn't even border Israel. It's really not even that close. It's like it's separated by like the state of Missouri. Like that's how much space there is between Iran and Israel. But let's read about this a little bit. So Israel used long planned subterfuge an attack on Iranian nuclear targets, Israeli sources say. And so this is so funny. This is like the summary at the top. Mossad agents targeted weapon system from ground, source says. I don't know what that means. I guess maybe that means that they implanted themselves in Iran and then like told them where to shoot the missiles at. And then this is the funny part. So Israeli official says false briefing was part of deception. It's just they're using Jewish tricks. The Jews, even when we're talking about military strategy, they're still using evil little Jewy tricks. Oh, that's so funny. And then Israel decided timing of attack on Monday, sources says. And I didn't really talk about this a little bit in the last episode because I was like, who gives a shit? I didn't talk about the thing that led up to this attack. So basically, the UN decides who can and cannot have nuclear weapons, and they closely monitor people's nuclear programs. And what I mean by that is like some people they're like, oh, we need uranium and plutonium and whatever the fuck else, so that we can build like nuclear reactors and shit like that, like weapon uses for uranium. And apparently, Iran was not complying with the UN, which it's just ridiculous. It's it's completely ridiculous to be like, no, you cannot have nuclear weapons. You're not allowed to do it. No, you can't. No, you can't. But anyway, it's like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna build a nuke. The fuck are you gonna do about it? So I guess Iran wasn't complying, and so this is. But once again, we go back. Listen to the words of Chuda, dude. The Chuda. Listen to the words of the Chud Buddha, and remember, nothing ever happens. People are like, this is gonna like I like this was I don't watch anything about the news on YouTube. The only interaction I have with like these, like these news updates, these current events that I do is from just articles that I read. I don't watch videos on YouTube, but, like, this was such a big thing that, like, in the middle of the night last or not the middle of the night, I'm like a 90-year-old person. I go to bed at, like, 8 PM. So this was, like, 7:30. I was like, "God, the news is still on this late?" It's 7:30 PM. There was, like, this live stream with, like, 100,000 people watching it about, like, this situation, and people were like I'm gonna be honest, I was pretty high last night. Did get a little bit did indulge in, the hokey tokey, the pen, the Benjamin, the Penn Stiller, the Pendolph the Pendolph Littler, whatever you wanna call it. I did indulge, and so for a second, I was like, "Fuck, dude, we're all gonna die in a nuclear attack," and then I was very quickly like, "No, this is just another ethnic conflict in the Middle East." Between 2 pretty powerful countries, yes, but it's still just an ethnic conflict in the Middle East. And so let's read a little bit. Israel sent Mossad commandos deep into Iran to destroy Iranian weapon systems during Israel's attack on nuclear and military targets, an Israeli security source said, while another official said Israel used a ploy to suggest the strike was not imminent. Once again, that goes back to the Jewish tricks. They're like, no, we're not going to raise your interest rate. We're not going to do it. This is an adjustable rate, but we're not going to raise it. Okay. They're using the same tricks that get people to, like, take out these insane loans at these banks, but they're using it for military purposes. And I really don't know what the Mossad is. I thought the Mossad was, like, their version of the CIA, but I guess it's just their intelligence/military thing kind of all in one. But the Israeli officials, speaking on condition of anonymity, said that the clandestine nature of the operations described secret and lengthy preparations that went into an attack that sent oil prices sharply higher on fears of regional escalation. Reuters would not independently verify the accounts. Iranian officials who spoke to Reuters shortly before the attack had been dismissive about any imminent action and repeatedly said talk of strikes was just psychological pressure to influence U.S. Iranian nuclear negotiations that were due on Sunday. I don't know what that means. I didn't know. I didn't know that the UN was like an angry, balding professor who was like, I'm not going to take any late work, all right? If you want to be in college, you got to get your work done on time. I didn't know they were like that. I didn't know that, like, negotiations to prevent nuclear war was like an essay in a creative writing class. I didn't know that that's the way they did things. But yeah, it's very funny that they're not even close to having nuclear weapons. It's like it's like when we went into Iraq. Like, that's the whole reason that was Operation Iraqi Freedom, I believe it was called, in 2003 when America went into Iraq. Um, was to destroy weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, right? Like, I think it was Colin Powell went in front of the UN and said that Iraq had nuclear weapons. It's like, no, they don't. If Iraq managed to make, or Iran managed to make nuclear weapons out of a fucking scrap of desert, that's like some Tony Stark's. That's literally Tony Stark shit. It's like Tony Stark made this in a cave with a box of scraps. Like, that's how I feel about these countries somehow gaining nuclear weapons. It's insane. It's the the idea that, like, a bunch of fucking, you know, deeply religious, deeply fucking, superstitious morons that own a small scrap of desert in the Middle East are somehow able to make nuclear weapons is insane to me. So I don't think Iran is even close to being able to make. Iran isn't close to being able to make a fucking bicycle, right? Like, there's nothing there. Even there are parts of Iran that are a little more, I guess, like, fertile, like, capable of holding civilization, but still, most of it is just like a big, gigantic, empty desert. Right? It's like if you heard that fucking people in Wyoming were making nuclear weapons. It's like the state of Wyoming has a nuclear weapons program. Like, if you heard that, you'd be like, no, they don't. The state of Wyoming does not have a nuclear weapons. No, nothing is happening in Wyoming. They're gonna make a nuke out of cow shit? Is that what Wyoming's doing? Right? Like, Iran's nuclear weapon that they're developing is probably just like a sandcastle with a fucking with an M80, like a fucking firecracker inside of it. That's their nuclear weapon. They do not have nuclear weapons. Iran has not given a detailed account of what its foreign minister Abbas Arghachi called unlawful and cowardly attacks, but it has promised a harsh response. Iran's mission at the United Nations did not immediately respond to a request for comments or for comment on Israel's covert operation and other subterfuge related to the attacks. So, yeah, this is just a tough L for the Iranians. You know what I mean? Because Iran, it was a while back. It wasn't a while back. It was like 2 months ago. But they sent like drones and missiles to like go and like just fuck up Israel, right? Like that's what they did, and they got completely stopped on that one, right? Like Israel used their American weapons that America gave them money to buy, but they used those weapons to like shoot down all the missiles and drones and shit, and they really didn't get fucked that bad. And then Israel sends in just a bunch of fucking just a bunch of Jewish dudes. Like, look, no offense, that's not like the most intimidating group of men on the planet, right? They're just they're not. They're not. It's not like the fucking Vikings in Sweden or like Spartan warriors. It's a bunch of like wiry dudes with large noses, like Jew frozen shit, went into your country and completely fucked it up. So it's just kind of embarrassing. That's the best way to put it. It's kind of embarrassing for Iran. Even with the trillions of dollars of aid Israel has received from America, I think the number is like 3 trillion or something insane like that. Sorry, I had to take a sip of water, but it's very, very embarrassing for this to have happened to them. And then we have the New York Times, dude. The failing New York Times is has something to say about this. And this was the other thing that kind of happened here. They didn't just strike like the labs and shit that they were making these nukes in. They went after the dudes too. So Iran reels from Israeli strikes on nuclear sites and top officials. Israel said it had damaged a key nuclear facility, and Iran said several military commanders were killed. President Trump warned Tehran to agree to new limits on its nuclear program or risk even more brutal attacks. And this is something you have to find like the positive in here, which at least for once Israel is being used as the puppet state for America and not the other way around. Like a lot of the wars America fought in the Middle East were like kind of motivated by Israeli interests, and now for once Israel is being motivated by American interests. And so I think that's the positive here. The positive here is that it's not completely we're just a puppet state of Iran. And so they do have a map here. Yeah, Israel is not it's not close to Iran at all. But to be fair, like the countries that are in between it are like Jordan and Iraq and Saudi Arabia kind of a little bit. And so yeah, that's just like empty desert there. But yeah, let's see. Let's look at this map. So Tabriz, Israel launched multiple rounds of attacks here. Explosions reported near center and missile bases. Residents reported seeing Israeli fighter jets. Ooh, that's no good. Israel attacked Iran's main nuclear enrichment facility. And so the way like nuclear weapons works is you get all like this uranium and then you have to enrich it, right? You have to like I don't know exactly how they do it, but I think you like basically pick out the good parts of the uranium and leave the other shit. I think that's what uranium enrichment is. I'll look it up real quick, but I think that's what it is. And so that's what they're hitting. They're hitting the parts of it that are like enrichment. Um yeah. What the fuck? What is uranium enrichment? Removes unwanted uranium. Yeah, they pick out the bad parts and keep the good parts in. And so they hit the thing that was like making all the uranium that could be used to making nuclear weapons. And then there's unenriched uranium, which can also be used for military purposes because uranium is like it's this super super duper dense thing. And so they'll take non-active or non-radioactive like uranium. It's like as dense as lead. It's or more dense than lead. And they'll use it to like make bullets and like shells and shit to shoot at tanks and stuff. And yeah, they got fucked up here. And I think the general of like the Iranian army, I think it was like the Iranian Royal Guard or whatever the fuck they call it. That guy got killed too. And so yeah, it's but nothing's gonna happen. Like a few thousand Americans are probably gonna be sent to die in this conflict, right? Like Iran like America as a military power is so powerful that it's like we can completely destroy any one of these governments in like 50 seconds. Other than China, like China could put up a decent fight against us, but like it's the same thing as Iraq. Like everyone is like, "Oh, Iraq has the fourth most powerful military in America." And then it's like or other sorry, the fourth most powerful military in the world, but it's like it's America's number 1 and then there's kind of no competition from there, right? It's just like a bunch of little bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like me being like I'm the fourth fastest stuck or cup stacker in the world, and it's like yeah, there's like one autistic dude who can do it in 2 seconds, but then everyone else is just like, you know what I mean? It's no one else can do it that quick, and that's what America's like. And so yeah, if I had to guess, at worst this turns out into another Iraq. At best, Iran just goes in whatever. Eh, we already got destroyed by the CIA in the 70s. Now we're getting destroyed by the Mossad in the 2020s. What difference does it make? And so I think that's probably my guess as to what's going to happen. Iran just going to, the fuck are we going to do about it? There's not going to be a nuclear war. It would be interesting if there was, and that's the thing. When you look at a situation like that, just go like, what's the most interesting world-changing thing that can happen? And whatever that is, isn't going to happen. It's just not. And so yeah, that's just what I wanted to come on here and talk about. Talk about tits and Iran versus Israel. the the Aryans and the Jews are still fighting. Except this time the Jews might come out on top. And yeah, Hunter Schafer, big old hits. Hey, you heard my game plan, Hunter. You really want trans acceptance? Put that game plan into action. All right, get it done. Get it done. All right, doesn't matter. Get better. All right, I don't want to see any fucking bullshit reps out here. I don't want to see you going on The View or whatever. Get your ass on Rogan ASAFP. Listen to me, son. Do it. Okay. That's all I've got for this episode. Like I said, it's probably going to be a pretty short one. Only got about 45 minutes, but look, is the world going to end? No. Are Hunter Schafer's tits going to change the tide of the trans movement of America? Probably, and that's why I talked about it more, because it's the more interesting, more likely thing that could happen. But that's all I've got for this episode, guys. I hope you have a good day, good week, good year. Hope your summer goes well for you. Hope you get all the college classes you want. I hope you look up Hunter Schafer's tits, because like I said, guys, it's a very great pair there. And yeah, have a good day, good week, good year, good life, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Peace out.